We've all been there, blown away by a trailer, pre-ordering a game with trembling fingers, and then disappointment. The final product doesn't quite live up to the dazzling spectacle promised in those meticulously crafted video teasers. Today, we'll cover some of the most notorious downgrades, the games that went from must-haves to wait for a deep sale in the blink of an eye. Starting off the list is Watch Dogs. This title holds a special place in the Downgrade Hall of Fame. The E3 2012 reveal trailer showcased a game with stunning visuals, dynamic lighting, and a rain-slicked Chicago that seemed to pulse with life. But upon release, the final product looked like a pale imitation. Gone were the impressive lighting effects, replaced by a bland, washed-out color palette. Texture quality took a nosedive, and the overall graphical fidelity felt a generation behind what was initially promised. This downgrade became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the difference between pre-rendered trailers and the realities of game development. Compared to the trailer, the engaging gameplay of hacking the environment around you also took a dramatic hit, reducing the complex interactions between vehicles, technology, and people to something you'd expect in a PlayStation 1 game. If you were in the loop when it was announced, the day before captured gamers' imaginations with its trailers, which showcased a stunning post-apocalyptic America overrun by infected and desperate survivors.
Remember, dangers are everywhere here, ranging from the vicious infected to other players.
Sun-drenched cityscapes crawling with the undead, and a terrifyingly beautiful atmosphere had players eagerly awaiting its release. However, spoiler alert, the day before story is yet another case of overpromising and under-delivering. The game launched in a rough state, failing to live up to the lofty expectations set by its trailers. What gamers received fell far short of the initial visuals. Environments lacked the promised detail, and gameplay mechanics felt shallow compared to what was advertised. The final product also faced accusations of plagiarism, heavily borrowing elements from other titles, most notably Ubisoft's The Division. Despite delays and promises of improved gameplay, the day before arrived riddled with bugs, lacking key features, and offering minimal depth. The closure of developer Fantastic Studios shortly after launch marked a sad end for the project, leaving players disappointed and frustrated. This entire situation raises serious questions about accountability in the gaming industry, particularly regarding pre-release marketing practices. For gamers, the day before serves as a reminder to stay frosty when faced with hype. After all, sometimes the future we see advertised isn't quite the one we get. Evolve burst onto the scene with a revolutionary concept: an asymmetric multiplayer game pitting 4 elite hunters against a single monstrous alien creature that evolves throughout the match. The trailer showcased thrilling chases, strategic takedowns, and a constant power struggle between man and beast. For many, Evolve looked like the future of online gaming. The core concept of Evolve was undeniably attractive. Playing as one of the 4 distinct hunters with unique abilities and weapons offered a thrilling cooperative experience. Coordinating takedowns, utilizing traps, and strategically maneuvering as a team to bring down the evolving behemoth was undeniably fun. On the flip side, controlling the monstrous creature, Goliath in the initial release offered a unique power fantasy. Seeding the map with smaller creatures to evolve, strategically choosing upgrades, and then unleashing raw power on unsuspecting hunters was a different kind of thrill. Despite the initial promise, Evolve's gameplay loop grew repetitive. Matches often devolved into predictable patterns, with hunters falling into a familiar rhythm of setting traps and unloading weaponry. While initially powerful, the Goliath often felt outmatched as the hunters honed their coordination. The game was plagued with balancing issues on launch, with following updates making the hunters too powerful and others tipping the scales in favor of the monster. Perhaps the biggest blow to Evolve was the dwindling player base. Matchmaking times grew longer and the fun of coordinated hunts became harder to find. The initial free-to-play model for the Goliath character alienated some players, and the constant stream of downloadable content further divided the community. Evolve, a game designed around teamwork, ultimately suffered from a lack of players to form those teams. Its downfall highlights the importance of balancing gameplay, fostering a healthy community, and ensuring content updates don't fragment the player base. While the concept of Evolve remains interesting, its execution ultimately led to a game that went extinct far too soon. Battleborn, a vibrant hero shooter that dared to be different in a crowded market. It boasted a diverse cast of playable heroes with unique abilities and playstyles. Set on the fantastical planet of Solus, the game promised a narrative-driven campaign alongside thrilling competitive multiplayer. The trailers were action-packed, showcasing explosive battles and quirky humor. So, what went wrong with this ambitious title? Battleborn's core strength lay in its diverse roster. From a minigun-wielding badass with odd proportions to a grenade-launching chicken, each hero offered a distinct way to approach the battlefield. Unlike other hero shooters focused on singular roles like tank or damage dealer, Battleborn encouraged players to experiment and find their perfect fit. This variety fostered a steeper learning curve, but the gameplay could be gratifying for those who mastered their chosen hero. While the quirky humor and offbeat characters were charming,
Time to be the badasses we were born to be. Live together or die alone. Oh, he is good. He is really good.
Battleborn's narrative campaign failed to capture players' imaginations. The story felt convoluted and lacked the punch needed to compete with established franchises. This was a missed opportunity, as a compelling narrative could have helped flesh out the world and characters. Unfortunately, Battleborn launched at a time when the hero shooter market was becoming saturated. Games like Overwatch had already captured a significant audience,
What are you looking at?
making it difficult for Battleborn to stand out. The steeper learning curve and lack of a free-to-play model further hindered its ability to attract new players. And despite critical acclaim for its gameplay mechanics and character design, Battleborn struggled to maintain a healthy player base. Matchmaking times grew longer and the game eventually went offline in 2021. Battleborn's story reminds us of the importance of strong marketing and finding a way to stand out in a crowded genre. While the core gameplay was solid, it wasn't enough to overcome the challenges of launching a new hero shooter in a competitive market. Cyberpunk 2077, a name that went from acclaimed anticipation to an outburst of disappointment before eventually settling into its redemption arc. This sprawling RPG, set in the neon-drenched dystopia of Night City, promised an open world unlike any other. Players were shown breathtaking trailers, futuristic weapons and characters, and a story brimming with cyberpunk themes. But when the game arrived, it was a buggy mess. The game was riddled with bugs, glitches and performance issues, especially on last-generation consoles. The features promised before the release were either missing or felt underdeveloped. This technical nightmare overshadowed the game's core strengths, a compelling story with memorable characters, a rich world begging to be explored, and a deep, if sometimes clunky, combat system. CD Projekt Red, the game's developer, faced immense criticism and backlash. However, unlike Fantastic, the developers of the day before, they didn't abandon ship. The studio embarked on a long rehabilitation journey, releasing a steady stream of patches and updates that addressed the most egregious bugs and performance issues. While the initial damage was significant, CD Projekt Red remained committed to fixing their game.
Precious tanky.
It's neurogenic shock. He's dying.
It was a long road back from the initial disappointment. The damage to Cyberpunk 2077's reputation was significant, and regaining gamers' trust wouldn't be easy. Yet, with each update, Night City felt more polished and closer to the vibrant world showcased in the trailers. The core strengths of the game, the gripping story, the unforgettable characters, and the immersive world started to shine through the cracks in the technical facade. Then came Phantom Liberty, the highly anticipated expansion for Cyberpunk 2077. This wasn't just a collection of bug fixes and tweaks, but a whole new chapter in Night City's saga. Critics and players alike dived in, eager to see if CD Projekt Red had genuinely delivered on their redemption promise. The reviews were overwhelmingly positive. Phantom Liberty boasted a thrilling new storyline that expanded the game's lore, introduced intriguing characters, and offered fresh gameplay experiences. While not entirely eradicated, the bugs were significantly less disruptive to the overall experience. Once a glitching mess, Night City now felt like a living, breathing metropolis with its unique blend of danger and allure. Following this release came many updates, including the most recent one that introduced the metro system, portable radio, and hangouts for the player's romantic interests. Although, despite these positive changes, Cyberpunk 2077's redemption debate isn't entirely settled, as some gamers still hold the scars of the initial launch and technical problems haven't completely vanished. But for many others, The journey from disappointment to redemption is a testament to CD Projekt Red's perseverance. Whether Cyberpunk 2077 is fully redeemed in the eyes of every player remains to be seen, but one thing is sure: Night City is a far more inviting place to visit now than it was at launch, and that in itself is a victory for CD Projekt Red and a glimmer of hope for the game's future, a future where Night City continues to evolve and draw players into its neon embrace. From developers that took the money and ran, to those who listened to criticism and relentlessly chipped away at the game's problems. It's a reminder that even the most disappointing launches don't have to spell the end. Sometimes with enough dedication and the right updates, a game can be nudged back on course, becoming something closer to what it was always meant to be. So, the next time you hear about a rocky launch, give the developers a chance, since games have the potential to change and improve over time. Unless, of course, the company decides to double down on their negative launch and dig themselves deeper into a nuclear crater.